lunch.
One day, Thomas's mother bought him a nice new brown snowsuit. When Thomas saw that snowsuit, he said, "That's the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life. If you think I'm going to wear that ugly snowsuit, you are crazy." His mother said, "We will see about that." The next day, when it was time for Thomas to go to school, his mother said, "Thomas, please put on your snowsuit." Thomas said, "No." His mother jumped up and down and said, "Thomas, put on that snowsuit." Thomas said, "No." So his mother picked up Thomas in one hand and picked up his snowsuit in the other hand. They had an enormous fight, and when they were done, Thomas was in his snowsuit. Thomas went off to school and hung up his snowsuit. When it was time to go outside, all the other kids jumped into their snowsuits and ran out the door. But not Thomas. The teacher looked at Thomas and said, "Thomas, please put on your snowsuit." Thomas said, "No." The teacher jumped up and down and said, "Thomas, put on that snowsuit." Thomas said, "No." So the teacher picked up Thomas in one hand and picked up the snowsuit in the other hand and tried to stick them together. They had an enormous fight, and when they were done, the teacher was wearing Thomas's snowsuit and Thomas was wearing the teacher's dress.
Yeah, it was funny.
When the teacher saw what she was wearing, she picked up Thomas and tried to get him back into his snowsuit. They had an enormous fight. When they were done, the snowsuit and the dress were tied up in a big knot on the floor, and Thomas and the teacher were in their underclothes. Just then, the door opened and in walked the principal. "It's Thomas," said the teacher. "He won't put on his snowsuit."
Oh my
The
goodness.
principal gave a very disgraceful look and said, "Thomas, put on that snowsuit." Thomas said, "No." So the principal picked up the teacher in one hand and picked up Thomas in the other hand and tried to get them into their clothes. They had an enormous fight, and when they were done, the principal was wearing the teacher's dress. The teacher was wearing the principal's suit, and Thomas was still in his underwear. Just then, from out in the yard, someone called, "Thomas, come and play!" Thomas ran across the room, jumped in his snowsuit, got his boots on in 2 seconds, and ran out the door. The principal looked at the teacher and said, "Hey, you have on my suit. Take my suit off right now." The teacher said, "Oh no, you have on my dress. Take it off first." Well, they argued and argued and argued, but neither one wanted to change first. Finally, Thomas came in for recess. He looked up at the teacher and he looked up at the principal. Then he picked up the teacher in one hand and picked up the principal in the other hand. They had an enormous fight. When they were done, Thomas had gotten everybody back into their clothes. The next day, the principal quit his job and moved to Arizona, where nobody ever has to wear a snowsuit.